Hey guys, welcome to Blackbird. It's Megan and Elizabeth, and this is going to be a completely different video about my reaction, Elizabeth's reaction to the Sunday shooting of Dante Wright. And so it will probably be more profanity than you're used to because I am angry and I'm upset and I'm frustrated, and we're going to talk about it now. Um, so, because I want to. And it's my channel, so so um this whole thing is bullshit. Like it's just so incredibly frustrating as a person of color to see this happening over and over and over again. And I don't know I don't know if it's a black thing, but when this stuff happens, it like I get super emotional and it makes me cry because I see a young black man being killed and I think that could have been my brother. Or, like if like when like George Floyd, I'm like that could have been my dad or my uncle or like any of the black men in my family. So it hits me very personally when I see these things because these people are my people. They could be my brother, my uncle, right? My dad. So it hits me really hard. I don't know if that's the reaction that all people of color have to these things. I feel like it probably is because that's why we're all so upset. um, so, but it's just such bullshit. Okay, so one, a taser and a gun, two completely different. Like they weigh completely different amounts. I have held both. Like, no, it wasn't a police taser. No, it wasn't a police firearm. But it was a taser and it was a firearm. And they don't weigh the same. There's just completely different mechanics involved. Electronics are lighter than solid metal. They don't weigh the same. So to be like, oh, like to in it like taser, 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 and then pull out your gun, it's it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous and it's bullshit. The reason they pulled him over is bullshit, and I'm gonna talk about that in a second. But like, it's so crazy. I feel like so at first I was like, why aren't they been fired? And then I read an article today that said that like she's resigned and the police chief I think has resigned, and that's not fair either. And let me tell you why. So Elizabeth, if I came to you and I was like, hey, I quit my job, what do you think happened?
I definitely think you're in the right. You had a good reason to quit. Maybe um you don't like
I didn't
doing
like the job.
some, yeah, you're not being treated, the
Not
way
being
you
treated fairly. Something's going
should.
on. I quit my job. If
Yeah,
I come to you and I say I was fired,
definitely think you did something wrong.
exactly. I did something wrong. More than likely. I did something wrong. So the fact that they get to resign and just walk away, like, is a whole another level of bullshit. You had time to be like, oh, well, I'll just quit instead of you firing me. Like, no, 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 no. You don't get to do that. You don't get to do that.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I mean, the likelihood she would have been fired seems fairly low. So, I mean, I mean, you're right. Um, I was surprised to see that I mean, what I see a lot seems to be happening is like no one will admit like that they were wrong, that they fucked up. Like there's not a remorse. So like that, yeah, no, you're right. It's not fair to just get to resign. I mean, I'm sure there will be consequences, but yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I
Hopefully.
don't know why I said I'm sure there will be consequences because often there aren't. But I mean,
Right.
she's just like she's not getting off totally scot free. She'll have to go to some sort of process that she would have had to if she stayed on the force. But uh,
Right.
yeah,
I guess. I don't know. So I just feel like that's total bullshit. Like, no, 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 you don't get to do that. Um, so that's one thing. The other thing is like, how do you accidentally shoot someone? I mean, I know that like in homes and in private places, people get shot accidentally. I understand that concept. It is devastating. It is sad. That is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about pulling a firearm that you know is loaded because you're a police officer, pointing it at someone and shooting them, and then saying it was an accident, that you meant to reach for your taser. You've been on the police force, I think someone said something like 23 years. You know where your gun is, you know where your taser is. And this was not, from what I've seen on the video, a snap, high escalation, high adrenaline decision. She says the word taser 3 times and then pulls out her gun. I don't see how that's an accident. But let's say it is. Let's say it's an accident. Like, how does that happen? You don't get to be a police officer anymore. You don't.
Yeah.
You don't. You don't. Like, if I was a doctor and I accidentally took out the wrong appendage, right? I was supposed to take your left kidney. I took your right kidney. I lose my license. I don't get to be a doctor anymore. If a dentist does it and they pull the wrong tooth, they don't get to be a dentist anymore. And it's immediate. It's not like, hey, let's try and see what happened, blah, blah, blah. No, you stop. You stop practicing right then. You do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You're done. And the fact that it doesn't work like that for police is completely ridiculous. It's infuriating. It is rage inducing. Especially because it's only when they do it to black people. So I was on Facebook and someone posted that like a couple of years ago, or maybe it was like not a couple of years ago. I think they said it was like in the 70s, maybe. Um, a black officer accidentally shot a white woman. He was fired immediately and faced murder charges and had to apologize. So, what's the difference between that and this? Oh, she's white and he was black. You can't tell me there's any other difference because there's not. And like Trevor Noah said, like as long as no one's held accountable, they're just going to keep doing it. They don't give a shit if other people are watching. They don't give a shit if people are recording them. They don't give a shit if they're recording themselves. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it's heartbreaking and it's sad. And it's like, what do you do with all of these things? Like I was crying last night after reading all of these things because it's tedious. It's like why is this still happening? Right? Like it's been so long. Right? Why is this still happening? And then why, like, when people go out and protest and they're like, hey, this is wrong, are there people out there who are like, well, no, I don't know. Explain it to me. Explain to me how it's right or okay. Because it really isn't. There's no explanation for it. And I know there's the whole Blue Lives Matter thing. Here's the thing that's wrong with Blue Lives Matter. Unpopular opinion, probably what I'm about to say. It's a job. You chose to be a cop. If you didn't want to put your life in danger, you could easily choose, not to be a cop. I don't get to choose to be black. I was born this way, as are all the other black people in the world. That's why Blue Lives Matter, Black the Blue don't make any sense because they chose that profession. They chose to put themselves in that position. I don't choose to get shot by a police officer for buying candy in a convenience store or for this, expired tags and air fresheners. That's why they pulled him over. His tags were expired and he had air fresheners hanging from his rearview mirror. I don't know about y'all. Maybe Elizabeth, that sounds like bullshit to me. That sounds like a bullshit
Yeah,
reason to pull somebody over.
that's what they're for. First of all, that's why it's got a hangy thing on it. Also, I've had stuff on my rearview mirror on and off like since I started driving. I've had a little dangle on my mirror for at least 3 years now, and it's not like it's not like I've never heard anybody say you can't hang an air freshener or anything on your mirror. And again, they're made to hang on your mirror. That's designed. If you can get pulled over for using something everybody uses, that is news to me.
Right. And yeah, like that whole traffic incident was black profiling escalated. That's what it was. They pulled him over because he's a black guy driving. He's a 20-year-old, young-looking black guy driving a nice car. That's why they pulled him over. And now his family has lost him. His son has lost him. He doesn't get to live the rest of his life. How is that fair or right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It's just
Yeah, and I don't. So we talked a little bit. It's like I don't know all specifics, but like, I'm kind of trying to find it. I'm not going to find it. But somebody on Instagram had like pointed out like how do you get from, because I don't remember what the original ticket was, but essentially like it's a ticket that didn't get paid, so went to collections, so he had a warrant. So essentially, and this happens all the time to a lot of people who don't have money, like
money.
across the board. Um, uh, it's like if you can't pay it, it's people make this argument about debtors' prisons too. Like you honestly shouldn't even go to jail for not being able to pay. But yeah, it's like if you don't have the money to pay the ticket, or if you don't have the money to pay for insurance, how is a financial fine going to fix any of that? You're just adding to the burden. So yeah, I mean, all the other stuff aside, that I mean, that's the thing in all these cases is like, oh, let's say that this, like, what they thought was happening was really happening. The cops are only the cops. They don't get to be jury and executioner too. That's not
Exactly.
what this is for.
Right.
But,
That's not what you're there for as a police officer. It is not your job to do that. And it is not a crime worthy of death to resist arrest. Some
yeah.
people hear this argument, well, they shouldn't have resisted. It's not a crime to resist arrest. If I resist arrest, I do not, therefore, deserve to die.
Mm-hmm.
That is a ridiculous argument.
Mm-hmm.
Someone, or like they were running away. If someone is running away from you, how are you in fear for your life? You can't possibly be afraid for your life if someone is running from you.
Mm-hmm.
You might be afraid they're going to get away. I can understand that. They're certainly not going to suddenly turn around and kill you.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. It's a bullshit. It's got to stop. It is so frustrating, irritating, saddening, all of the emotions. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are like, I don't understand. If you don't understand, pretend that kid was your kid. Pretend George Floyd was your dad. Make it personal so that you can understand, so that you can empathize, and so that you get why it's a problem. Because it is a problem that we're not addressing, that we haven't addressed and that we continue not to address. We have to fix it. We have to. They're killing us in the streets and there are no consequences. And according to everything I was taught in history class, that's not what America is about.
Well,
That's not what we stand for, supposedly. So, get your shit together, America. I guess that's it for this episode of Megan's Pissed Off at People. uh, hope you enjoyed it. Don't be a racist. Wash your hands. Deuces.